What is going on, everyone? My name is No Pun Intended, and welcome to coverage of my Week 7 battle for the United Battle Championship. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like or a comment on it. I would very much appreciate it. Now, I gotta be honest with all of you right now. Ever since, I lost 5-0 last week, you know that much. But it just seems like that I've kind of lost my spark for Draft League. Okay, the last game that I've uploaded on my channel that I've won was Week 8 of UPA last season. So, in terms of games that I've uploaded, I think I'm on a 7-game losing streak or something, which is just, really bad, and there are plenty of other games I've lost that I haven't uploaded, so it's just getting to the point where I feel like I'm just not good at Draft League, and that I just don't play well, and why should I even bother, going into future games? I mean, that's just kind of the idea of it right now. I feel like I'm making good sets. I'm mocking again, like I usually do for games, but it's just if I'm gonna keep getting blown out by 4-0, 5-0, 3-0 as of late, how much time is it really worth for me to put into this if I'm still just losing a lot? That's kind of the idea. Yeah, I'm sorry I have to come into this all negative, but that's just my mindset, and it was technically my mindset going into this game as well. So, anyway, in Week 7, we're taking on Nader, coach of the Memphis Guzzlords, and I am incredibly jealous of this team because there's some really threatening offense, stuff like Kurum Black, which is always a pain to try to play around. Megazam is really fast. My team is, well, not fast. Tapu Fini is a great defensive piece because it switches into a lot of the things that Kurum Black and Alakazam need to switch out of. And his mid-tier mons, the ones that would be taken in rounds 5, 6, or 7 of a draft, stuff like Metagross, Mienshao, Salazzle, they're all really good as well. I'm so jealous. I wish I could have a team like this, but unfortunately, I don't have very good switch-ins. He does. But that's the point of Draft League. You have to work with what you got. Anyway, I'm just going to cut to my team builder right now because my game plan for this matchup was just to go with a hard offensive strategy and pressure him about as hard as I could because some of his mons, well, they have the potential to be bulky. A lot of them can get 2-hit KO'd, and the best thing my team can do is offense. It really doesn't have very many switch-ins to anything at the moment. Anyway, enough of the rambling. Let's just get into the team that I brought. And I know I usually try to get these things out quick, but they never go as quick as I want to, so let's just get started. Anyway, the first mon is a fully physically offensive Mega Medicham. It outspeeds quite a few mons on his team that it wants to hit, namely the Kurum Black, the Crocodile, the Metagross. I just want to be able to whack things in the face with High Jump Kick. Psycho Cut is a more accurate version of Zen Headbutt, and it still Okos with Salazzle. Poison Jab hits Fini harder, and Bullet Punch may be able to revenge something like potential Scarf Kurum. We have Recycle, 3-attack Snorlax. I originally wanted to run Choice Band in order to hit Tapu Fini really hard, but it turns out that a Banded Gunk Shot doesn't even Oko a physically defensive Fini. But a regular Gunk Shot does 2-hit KO if I have max attack investment with an Adamant Nature. So I decided just to go with the Figgy Berry. If he goes for Nature's Madness with Fini, I can survive the hit and just get all my health back. We have the rather standard Swords Dance Mimikyu holding the Spooky Blade to boost the power of its ghost moves. And those ghost moves are mainly for hitting Alakazam and Metagross. Those are two mons I really want Mimikyu to be able to whack, because those Psychic types generally just get in the way of a lot of my other mons. One of the best examples of that is my physical Swords Dance Keldeo. I'm doing this because I anticipate that Nader switch-in is going to be Tapu Fini, and if I can get some chip on the Fini prior to that, and then get up to +2, a Poison Jab I'm hoping will be able to take it out and make things much easier for my team to handle, since I'm running 6 physical attackers this week. The only mon that might potentially be a special attacker is my Ditto, and the important part about it is that it's holding a Chople Berry. Now, I imagine that Nader is going to bring a lot of potential fighting moves for my Snorlax. He could bring Mienshao with High Jump Kick, he could have fighting coverage on Metagross or Crocodile or Kurum Black, and if that happens, I imagine that my Ditto is going to be copying Crocodile or the Kurum. I'll be able to tank hit a bit better, and then I can fire off an attack. Presumably, it would be a ground type attack if I was in on Crocodile, because Nader doesn't really have the best ground resist in the world. And with Kurum, I'd have to decide based on his moveset. It's going to be a bit of a new thing running Ditto without the Choice Scarf, but I want to see how it works. And it's also going to be a thing to not run Kartana with a Choice Scarf, which is very nice. Instead, I'm going Darkinium Z, because with a Swords Dance and that attack, a Z Night Slash will Oko a Metagross from full HP, provided it's not holding the Colbur Berry, but I imagine he's going to be running Sugar Berry just because his ground resists are not the best on his team, as I mentioned before. It was a tough decision between going with Corkscrew Crash or Black Hole Eclipse, but ultimately I felt like Metagross was a more likely switch into Kartana than Kyurem Black would be. Now, this team is predicated on the fact that I anticipated that Nodder wouldn't bring any of his low tier mons, and it turns out he really didn't. However, the team that I saw in my mocks is slightly different than the one I got in this game. Instead of having Mienshao, most of the mockers brought Salazzle instead, but I can't necessarily blame Nodder for bringing Mienshao. I think it has a pretty good match against my team as well. Mainly it has the Fighting Stab hit Snorlax super effectively. Beyond that, I expected one of Salazzle or Kyurem to be Scarfed in order to outspeed my Kartana and Keldeo. And considering that he hasn't brought Salazzle, it should be pretty obvious that the Kyurem is. Unless he maybe wanted to run like Z-Hail or something, but who knows. He might be a bit more spicy than I anticipated. Regardless, my lead is going to be Mega Medicham. If he wants to start off with a mon like, say, Crocodile or Metagross, I can immediately get off a big hit on that mon and potentially survive at least one attack. And Nodder leads with Mienshao. Now, for this opening matchup, at first I thought that I had the advantage because Medicham resists high jump kick. It's not really weak to any normal move that Mienshao can run, and he may just decide to U-turn instead. So I feel very comfortable just clicking high jump kick and getting off a big hit on something. At least that's what I thought. But about 10 seconds later, I get a thought into my head that his Mienshao can potentially run Acrobatics. And so I run the calc for itemless Acrobatics, and I see that it actually OHKOs my Mega Medicham. However, if his Mienshao is running an item, then it has no chance of killing my Mega Medicham with Acrobatics. As an example, if he's Choice Band, it does like 75 to 87% to my spread. And as you can see from my team construction, I would have no switch-ins to High Jump Kick or Acrobatics anyway. But because I can't tell whether or not he has an item, I decide, you know what, it's more worth it for me to stay in, because I doubt that he would go itemless, and it turns out he's not itemless. He's holding Flying Gem. Yes, the item that was last available in-game in Black and White 2. Alright, we really need to talk about this. I am still kind of a bit miffed at this situation. I wanted to get the result out of the way just so we can talk about it more in depth. So, the elemental gems, except for normal gems, haven't been available in-game, as I mentioned, since Black and White 2. They're technically in the code for the XY era and for the Sun Moon era, but there's no location where you can get them. And as a result, in normal circumstances, the UBC has banned items like Flying Gem that aren't available in Sun and Moon or Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. But for this situation, the leadership at the top ruled that because Medicham would have died anyway to an Acrobatics, as long as the Mienshao wasn't holding an item, that it was still technically legal. Like, we could ignore the fact that Mienshao was holding a gem in the first place, and the battle could continue as normal. And I'm sorry, but I do have a little bit of a problem with this. I mean, it's not like me to usually complain, but there's something about this that just irks me, and I want to get it off my chest. It mostly has to do with Showdown's interface. Specifically, when I scrolled over Mienshao on this turn, it didn't say whether or not it was holding an item at the time. And because of the fact that Showdown wasn't really telling me anything at this point, I decided that I was going to load up a random battle to see how Showdown gives information for a Pokemon that is holding an item. And I get matched up against some Pokemon. I want to say it was a Wigglytuff, but it was definitely a Pokemon that would have no reason to not run an item. There's no benefit that it would gain by going itemless. However, Showdown doesn't say whether or not this Wigglytuff or other is holding an item, which is strange because I know at least in the past that it would say something like item exists on the Pokemon whenever you would hover over it. As it turns out, you need to see what the item is before Showdown will tell you whether or not that Pokemon is holding an item. Until you have tangible evidence as to the identity of that item, you don't know whether that Pokemon is holding an item or not, unless you paid attention to that first screen, which unfortunately I didn't, and I didn't even think about Acrobatics until I saw Mienshao right in front of me. Now, I happen to bring this up because if you're battling on Wi-Fi, you would get this information. And I do need to thank my good pal Ice Demon Gray for getting into a battle with me and allowing me to film this. But if you're on the main battle screen, you can press the Y button or tap on the top right corner of a touch screen, and it will show you a list of all your opponent's Pokemon, as well as which of those Pokemon are holding items. Showdown doesn't have a way to do this. And the point I'm trying to make by all of this is that if Showdown had some kind of visible identifier as to whether or not a specific Pokemon is holding an item, then I would have seen that Nader's Mean Shao was holding an item and concluded that he couldn't have killed me, as the only item that would give his acrobatics enough power to kill me is a gem that hasn't been legal since Generation 5. And the only reason that I stayed in is because I assumed he had an item and knew that if he did, that Medicham wouldn't die. Now, the fact that I didn't catch that Mean Shao was holding an item at Team Preview is on me. It's my fault for not paying attention there, but I shouldn't have to do that. And I don't have to do that if I'm playing on Wi-Fi. That information is available to me there. So while some people will argue that Mean Shao holding a flying gem made no difference in the battle because without the gem, acrobatics would have killed my Mega Medicham anyway, to me, I make a significantly different maneuver depending on whether or not he's holding flying gem or not. So holding the gem does matter in that scenario. However, I don't make the rules, and because I didn't pay attention to Team Preview, I took it as my own fault that my Medicham died. So I didn't raise any sort of concerns about it after that point. Anyway, I'm rambling a bit. Let's just move on to turn 2. So the good news, if there's any possible good news about this situation, is that I know my Keldeo can outspeed and revenge his Mean Shao. But I make a bit of a misplay because I still kind of have the tunnel vision going on from a previous Draft League game I played that day as well as turn 1. And I go for Swords Dance even though I know that a +2 Poison Jab doesn't KO a fully physically defensive Tapu Fini. I should have really just gone for the close combat instead, and ensured I got at least some damage off on it, but the good news is Snorlax is more than capable of being able to switch into any attack that Tapu Fini can go for. Now, this next play is a bit weird, because I'm going to anticipate him to want to switch into Metagross, because it covers both a potential normal stab move as well as Gunk Shot coverage. So I'm going to go for Earthquake, but instead, Nader just goes for Whirlpool, and he's able to get off a decent chunk on my Snorlax. But the most important part about this turn is that it puts it at 58%. That number is going to be important for later. But the idea I have is that, well, he seems pretty willing to keep Fini in on Snorlax, so now I'm going to click Gunk Shot, but this time he's going to switch out of Fini after trying to trap him with Whirlpool and go into Crocodile as I fire up the Gunk Shot, and because it's a resisted hit, it does nothing. So Nader's completely getting into my head right now. And because of that, I decide to try to wrest control back from him. So I switch into my Ditto, intimidate his own Crocodile, and tank his Earthquake. Now, his Crocodile moveset is very, very strange, and I'm still trying to figure out what the heck it's for. So he has Dual Stab with Earthquake and Knockoff, as you can see, and he has Taunt and Block. I'm not sure what mon that's for. I'd be interested to find out. But who's going to live and who's going to die is going to come down to the inevitable Ditto speed tie here, and I lose it. So Ditto goes down, his Crook is still alive. I can revenge with Keldeo because I know he's not a Scarf set because he went for Knockoff, and I can just click Close Combat and kill it. But now he's going to go into his Mega Alakazam, and I make what I would also call another pretty bad misplay here. So because I'm at -1 special defense as a result of having gone for Close Combat on the Crocodile, I know that the Mega Alakazam can deal a big chunk of damage to me, can definitely kill me with a Psychic, and Focus Blast, I think it's a roll, I could be wrong on that. However, I realize that if he does go for Focus Blast, anticipating me to go into my Snorlax, which is the most obvious switch in, I guess, then because I'm at 58%, Focus Blast is a guaranteed KO on me. I won't be able to get my Berry off, and I'm going to lose probably the best defensive check I have to anything on his team. So I'm just like, what the heck have I been doing? Now, the play I make is to go into Mimikyu because it's my only fighting switch in, but he just goes for Psychic. Now, he doesn't actually click Focus Blast at any point during this battle, so either he didn't have it, or he just didn't trust it. Either way, it means that I lose to Disguise on my Mimikyu, which kind of stinks. So at this point, I'm just really mad, because I don't think I've made one single good play in this game. And I get so much tunnel vision off of that, that I don't even catch that he got a Spadef drop off the Psychic, and because of that, his Alakazam was able to Oko me. So every single play that I'm mad gets followed up with another play that gets me even madder, and so on and so on and so on, until the end of time. So anyway, let's just put this game out of its misery. I'm going to go into my Snorlax, because I think I'm going to get swept by Mega Alakazam and lose 5-0 again, but he doesn't click Focus Blast here, he goes for Psychic, I'm able to survive, eat my Ficky Berry, get off a return, then he reveals Taunt, which means I can't go for Recycle and get my HP back, because at this point I'm assuming he just doesn't have Focus Blast. Good play on his end, and I'm able to revenge him with the return. He can then go into his Mean Shao. I have no switch-ins for a high jump kick, so I have to just sack my Snorlax, and then go into Keldeo to revenge him with a close combat, but now he's going to switch into his Kyurem Black, and just like I had initially suspected at Team Preview, it's Scarfed, which means I lose my Keldeo, my final mon is the Kartana, And I do actually survive the first Ice Beam because of my HP investment. However, Cart wouldn't have been able to OHKO this Cure Black unless I put on Corkscrew Crash instead of Black Hole Eclipse as my Z move, and even if that were the case, his Metagross is still at full HP and be able to tank any single attack I could go for. Now, I do want to wish a GG to Nodder. Go check out his channel if you have the time. And I believe him when he says that the Flying Gem was an accident on his end, like he didn't realize that it was an illegal item. I don't think he's that kind of a malicious player based on the admittedly limited interactions I have with him, so don't flame him, guys. I know my fan base is really, really small, so I doubt that he would really get much of a bad reaction out of it, but you never know. But there's a lot of things that I realized could use some work after this game. First off, Showdown's interface could use a bit of work, so I can actually see which mons on my opponent's team have items and which ones don't. My team needs a lot of work, definitely, in that I didn't have a switch in whatsoever to Mean Shao. And even if I brought something like a Gliscor, Mean Shao could just run HP Ice, so who knows. And most importantly, I think my play needs a lot of work. I made a ton of bad reads in this game. I think that's the biggest thing that I have to work on over the final 3 games. But in my mind, we're out of playoffs. We're 2-5. We can technically get to 5-5, but even then, there's no guarantee we make it, as I think it's only the top 6 teams out of 14 actually move on to playoffs. So, I mean, hey, it's been a good run. I will be uploading my final 3 games later on, but I have much higher standards for myself than the last few games I've posted on this channel. And I don't know what's happened to me, but I better figure it out soon. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, maybe subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. And hopefully I'll see you all next time. Take care.